Hello, I'm Jared Council, Senior Editor of Forbes The Culture, and I'm joined today by Richelieu Dennis, who is the founder and executive chair of Essence Ventures, the co-founder and executive chair of Group Black, and founder of Sundial Group. Rich, great to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah. So your entrepreneurial journey took root on 125th Street in Harlem, right?
Yeah.
You were selling soap and shea butter as part of Sundial Brands. You sold that to Unilever in 2017, and then really kind of shifted your attention to the media sector. Obviously, Essence Ventures controls Essence Magazine. You have Group Black that you're part of. What attracted you to the media space, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah. Well, I think it's twofold. I think one, as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest challenge we have, many challenges, especially as a Black entrepreneur, but amongst those was the lack of access to consumers. Right? There is no platform that's been intentionally built to help Black entrepreneurs and Black-owned businesses access consumers, tell founder stories, and drive their businesses as a result of storytelling on platforms that we control, and on platforms that we can afford, right? So the intention around, and I joke with people and I say, hey, we sold Shea Moisture on Monday and bought Essence on Friday, right? Because part of what we were endeavoring to do was we had built Shea and Nubian into these very large brands, right? That have become an integral part of Black identity, especially Black women's identity. And we had created a tremendous amount of wealth in there. But we looked around and it was just Shea and Nubian, right? All the other brands were considerably smaller, struggling with the same things that we struggled with, but just from a smaller base. And so we had used the Shea and Nubian brands in our community commerce model to invest in other entrepreneurs along the way. And part of that was doing programs with institutions like Tuck. So we started an executive ed program there focused on. We partnered with and then created a specific program for Black women within their program.
The business school, right?
The business school, Tuck Business School, that would focus on providing the entrepreneurial training to Black women entrepreneurs. But when they would graduate, when they get out of this program, they still have the same challenges that everybody, no capital, resources, not being able to recruit a team, all of those things. Yeah. And so as that sort of swirled around, we had gotten Shea to this level and we started to think about, hey, if we could unlock the wealth that we've created in this business, we could create a dozen Sheas, right? As opposed to having just one. Mm-hmm. And so we decided that we would sell the business. But as part of that, we also had done some work to blueprint why we had been successful, right? So how do you replicate this? Yeah. And we came out with 4 pillars, and we call it PACE. It's our model today, right? It's purpose, access, capital, and expertise, right? And so we took that pillar and we said, well, if we apply these to other Black-owned businesses, right? If we apply these 4 pillars to other Black-owned businesses, I bet you we can recreate Shea.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done.
Yeah, yeah. And so for you, the media part was really about, helping replicate, or at least helping entrepreneurs see what was possible and also having a bigger impact, right? I mean, you can have programs, but through storytelling, you feel like you can make a bigger impact. Is that right?
Well, Yes. So all of those things are true, but there's a bigger umbrella around that, and that is an ecosystem.
All right.
Right. So part of what white companies have the opportunity to take advantage of is a ecosystem that's been built over centuries that they can tap into. Right. Black entrepreneurs don't have that. Right. And so what we're endeavoring to do is to create that.
Yeah.
Right. So media is a critical part of that. Right. Being able to, what people see, how they see it, when they see it, who they see it from, the way that they see it is critical to that. So media is but one part of the larger ecosystem that we're building. Right.
Got it.
The other part of that is capital. Right.
All
So
right.
New Voices Fund. Right. And I'm sure you'll want to get into that.
Yeah.
But so we've been building these different components that create an ecosystem that allow for businesses, for Black-owned businesses to get on this platform, engage in this ecosystem and scale.
Got you. And so with Group Black, I know that was established in 2021, and part of its mission was to increase ad spending that went to Black-owned media companies.
Yeah.
What can you share about what Group Black has been able to accomplish on that front so far?
Yeah. So I think it's again, taking a look at where we traditionally have done business, but then if you look at where Black people have traditionally done business in this country, nowhere can you find scale, right? There's no single industry you can say, hey, we've built that industry and it's scaled, or we've built these businesses within that industry and they've scaled, right? There's a lot of one-offs, but
Right.
there's nowhere that you can say, hey, consistently here's where that scale. Media is one of those places. And so I talked about the ecosystem before. So Essence and those brands are brands that we can leverage for our entrepreneurs to sit on, right? We can leverage for our community to sit on. We can drive real economic activity by giving them that access while still celebrating our culture and celebrating our community. Group Black serves a different purpose. The Group Black purpose is creating scalable inventory so that Black-owned businesses can participate at scale in the dollars that are spent. So when you come to think about it, again, if you look at Black-owned media, none of them have really achieved scale, right? So the inventories that these businesses have are small. And when they're small, and
Ad inventories we're talking about.
ad inventory,
Yep.
yeah. And when they're small and they're spread out across, hundreds of really small media businesses, there's an inefficiency when a large company says, I actually want to do business with Black media, right? Because I've got $10 million to spend on this campaign, but there isn't anybody that is scaled enough that I can achieve what I want to achieve and reach all the audiences that I want to reach. So I have to go to this one and spend $100,000. I have to go to this one and spend $200,000. I have to go to this one and spend $50,000. I go over here and I spend $500,000. I go over here, I spend $1 million. I go over here, I spend, right?
Sounds inefficient.
Very, very inefficient. And because they're small, not only inefficient in the spend, inefficient in the reach. So at Group Black, my co-founder there, Travis Montague, came to me and said, hey, look, this is a big problem, right? Because there's the inefficiency that's there, both in terms of the inventory and in terms of the reach. What if we came up with a model that would aggregate Black media onto one platform, build infrastructure underneath it that we're able to bring in the dollars and share those dollars across the collective.
Yeah.
And so that we've done, I think we have something like 200 and we may be up to, don't quote me, but somewhere between 220 to 250 Black-owned media entities now sit on that platform. right? So that if somebody wants to spend or we drive them to spend Black-owned media, it's not going to individually here and there, and then they're getting a piece of it and not. So now we bring scale to it.
Yeah, gotcha. Now, look, I'm sure you're aware of reports that Group Black is interested in buying BET and Vice. And, I know you can't say much on that, but I am curious. Well, first off, is it true? And then second off, what is the motivation for any acquisition strategy that you have?
Yeah. So I think the, I won't comment on specific entities, right? But what I will say is this. We as Black business owners and operators and culture creators, right, have just we just have been sort of excluded from playing at scale. We're now building businesses to play at scale. Some of these entities that you just mentioned are already at scale. The way that our counterparts do this is through organic growth or through acquisition.
Yeah.
We're doing it through both, right? So fortunately, we're in a position that we can play at that level, and we're going to bring the best content and the best businesses under Black ownership so that we can serve our communities properly.
Yeah. Are you optimistic that you'll make a deal in the near future?
Well, I think if I look at our track record, we've been pretty successful at getting deals done. I think we have an extraordinary team. We've got great vision. We've got good leadership. We've got capital supporting us. I think we'll continue to get things done.
All right. Shifting gears to the New Voices Fund, which you established in 2017 with proceeds from the Sundial sale.
Yeah.
Why'd you call it New Voices, and what impact has it had so far?
Yeah. First of all, I didn't want to be building something that felt like a stoic rinse and repeat organization or entity, right? I didn't want to. We changed at New Voices. We've changed all the rules around how you access capital, right? There are people who are set up and they're like, hey, we only do check sizes of this amount to this amount. There are people who are set up that say, hey, we only invest in this category, we only invest in that category.
Right.
Our approach to it was this marketplace is gonna hear our voices, right? And we're gonna be very loud with our success, right? And they're gonna be new voices that they haven't heard at this level and in these places before. And we're gonna bring these voices into these halls, and you're gonna know that we're there, right?
Yeah.
And the way that you do that is by driving outsized success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think about it, hey, we are focused on investing in Black people. Our first fund focused on Black women. Our second fund focused on Black men. And now our third fund will be focused on people of color. So we're bringing together as we scale it.
And this is all under the umbrella of the $100 million, fund that it started as, right?
So that's where it started, but it's grown.
Okay.
Right. It's grown considerably.
Can you say where it's at now?
The first one was focused on Black women, and that was 100. Then men was another 100.
Okay.
And now we're on Fund 3. I don't think I'm allowed to speak on that number yet, but you can assume that it's growing considerably.
Yeah, gotcha. And look, I've seen publications refer to you as the godfather of budding Black entrepreneurs, and you have investments in Slutty Vegan and the Lip Bar and Mael Organics, which recently sold to P&G. And I understand
which, by the way, was the largest transaction a Black woman has done in CPG. Congratulations, Monique and Melvin.
Yeah. You know, I have to ask, can you say any numbers on what the transaction was for?
I don't want to speak to their, that's them. But what I will say is, as I said earlier, it's the largest transaction a Black woman has gotcha. Done in CPG, and it's a very sizable transaction.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've seen a flood of investments in the Black and brown entrepreneurs in 2021, especially a bit of a pullback in 2022, and we'll see how 23 is shaping up. But from your vantage point, how would you describe the state of venture capital writ large for Black and brown entrepreneurs?
Look, you know, when we started New Voices, I don't know of any fund of any scale that was focused exclusively on Black people, and we've remained true to that. And we started this well before, George Floyd and the George Floyd effect, right? Of people saying, hey, I can't believe that we let this happen, and so now we're going to correct this and we're going to invest in it. What didn't happen was nobody took the time to build infrastructure. Nobody took the time to build an ecosystem.
Right.
Nobody took the time to really understand what these entrepreneurs need to truly be successful. What I think has happened is people, put out what they were going to do, some with the intention of doing it, some with the intention of not doing it, I've got to assume. But it never quite lived up to what the commitments were. Mm. Then you hit this patch of where economy gets a little shaky and then everything gets pulled back, mm-hmm. right? We've been very steadfast in saying, hey, our commitment here isn't going to waver. In fact, we're going to double down, and we're going to go even harder at it. And so the brands that you just spoke of, and there are many more, we're seeing, because they have this ecosystem that we've built, we're seeing them do extraordinarily well. And like I said earlier, they're going to hear us, right? That's why it's called New Voices. They're going to hear our voices. And the successes like Mael, and Slutty and Honeypot and all these other companies I think are gonna set the stage for how people that are investing in Black need to invest in Black, right? And the commitments that they need to make beyond the capital.
Yeah. And look, there are some mainstream institutions out there that are serious about expanding access for Black founders. But when things don't go well for them, they get criticized for focusing too much on diversity. And a case in point is Silicon Valley Bank recently.
Well, I would say that they didn't focus enough to begin with.
Elaborate.
All right. So to really do this, you've got to change your internal structures. Just building something outside of your internal structure to go serve this community sort of independently and separately, and it's not attached to how your business functions, right? And you haven't made the changes in your business to give Black entrepreneurs the same advantages as their white counterparts. Mm-hmm. You haven't done the work.
I think someone at the bank would argue that we were working on that, right? That we had internal and external programs.
You had centuries to work on it. They would, these guys have been in business for centuries, right? Yeah. Some of them,
70s, yeah.
Some of them, decades. Yeah. You had decades to do it. Fairness is fairness.
I got you. But overall, I mean, just this sort of anti-woke sentiment, mm-hmm. right? That, again, they're being blamed like their failures were contingent, basically happened because of their focus on diversity.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around, again, just that sentiment that's out there?
I mean, we all know that sentiment is comes out of bias, right? Comes out of a lack of understanding and actually, quite frankly, a lack of accountability, right, for the environments that those same people that are making those statements help to create and certainly help to perpetuate, right? And so that is not, there is nothing about diversity that has anything to do with what happened at Silicon Valley Bank or at Signature Bank or at any of these institutions. One black director and one LGBTQ director does not make a diversity program, does not impact the way that a business goes. Those statements are made by people who never wanted to see Black develop anyway, and find every reason that they can to tear it down. Our job is to make sure that we don't allow that to happen, right? That those of us that have the resources and the access double down in making sure that those types of initiatives continue.
Right on. I want to talk a little bit about your backstory, right? You're from Liberia originally. You went to college in the U.S., but you basically couldn't return home because of civil war that was happening there. And your grandmother and your mother played a role in not only you getting to the U.S., but also growing Sundial. What did you learn from them?
Wow, everything. My mother is still my business partner, my mentor, and the one that makes sure that we continue on the mission, right? That we don't lose sight of what we're here to accomplish. And what we're here to accomplish is to leverage business to bring sustainable economic development and change in our communities. I learned that, from, my grandmother in her village market, to my mother as a single mom, trying to take care of my sister and myself, to building a business starting on a street corner in Harlem, into what we've built it to. So the roles that my mother plays in my life is the role that we're trying to institutionalize through our businesses, so that Black business founders and business owners have that same support, right? Not just somebody that's there pushing you and wishing you well, but so that you actually now are taking the various lessons that we've learned, the various things that we've developed along the way, codifying them, institutionalizing them, and providing access to them.
Yeah, gotcha. We're almost through here. I want to get your quick take on, obviously as an investor, I'm sure you pay attention to technological trends and what's going on. And I'm curious how much attention you've been given to the generative AI technology that we're seeing with Chat GPT and so forth, and what you think the opportunity is for Black founders, but also even the impact on Black America. Yeah.
Look, it's extremely exciting, right? Because in my opinion, things like Chat GPT level the playing field, right? Because what is that going to mean? That is going to mean that the most creative of people are going to be telling Chat GPT what to do and what they want from it, and who are the most creative people on the planet, right? So I think it's going to unlock a tremendous amount of opportunities for our community in ways that we haven't had, right? Like access to, like when I was coming up, the guys that have really done incredible in my age group were guys that had access to programming, to learning how to code, right? We didn't have that in our community, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have a level playing field. It's not that they're any smarter than us. They just had the access to the tools.
Yeah.
Now, right, as the access becomes democratized, right, and we get to be the ones that are telling it what we want to see and what we want it to create and how we want to create it. I think you're going to see a leveling of the playing field. What we have to do is to encourage our young people to see it that way, and to pursue it that way, and to provide the resources for when they start building these businesses, they have access to what they need in order to compete.
Yeah, got you. I want to close out by asking you what we can expect from Essence Fest this year.
Wow.
It has a special place in the hearts of a lot of Black people.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things in my career that I'm most proud of, right? Is that first of all, that Essence Fest exists, right? And it came to life as I'm celebrating Essence's 25th anniversary. We're now going on, I think this year is going to be next year is Essence's 55th year and the festival's 30th year.
Okay.
Or something like that. For 30 years, for 1 week of the year, Wakanda is real. All right. And so we continue to build on that. So, when people get to New Orleans for Essence Festival of Culture, everything there is set up to serve them. Right. When Black women land in New Orleans for that week, the entire city is there to serve them. And we are there to make sure that happens. And so this year, I think you can expect Wakanda at just an elevated level in terms of all of the learning experiences that are there, all of the access to capital experiences that are there, all of the entertainment experiences that are there, all of the networking opportunities that are there. It's just become a very intentional place to go build and monetize Black culture, and for Black people to love on each other. And so you can expect even more of that this year.
Good deal.
And the lineup is going to be sick.
Awesome. Well, Rich, thanks for the time today.
Nah, man, thank you. This was fun.